Capital, I'm Katie Pilbeam. This week we talk about the US shutdown and the effects it has on China. As well as that, we ask a Singapore-based analyst for his take on the situation and the view of a Russian oligarch. Plus, corporate news to come and our in-house investor, Mr. Sean Thomas. He's back. He was sick last week, but we're going to see how healthy his portfolio is. But first, let's start with the story that has been dominating the financial headlines this week. So the day that the US will exhaust their borrowing capacity is looming. But what does the ongoing deadlock mean for China, the largest foreign holder of US debt? China's vice finance minister voiced his concern earlier in the week, saying that the US has a responsibility to resolve the debt-ceiling row. China's Premier Li Keqiang then expressed his concern. The Chinese leaders are calling for the situation to get resolved in order to ensure the safety of Chinese investments in the United States, which stand at around a quarter, at over $1.2 trillion, taking over from Japan in 2008. Now, added to this, China also have $3.5 trillion worth of US dollars, another reason for Beijing to worry about a potential US default. Now, in total, China has roughly 60% of its foreign currency reserves invested in US assets. So let's get over to Singapore now and hear from Motley Fool finance analyst David Q for more insight into this. David, can you tell me, what are the dangers for Chinese investments right now?
You know, as far as China is concerned, China is very conscious of the fact that it is holding a lot of US Treasuries, and China wishes it wasn't in that position in any case. So therefore, it is consciously trying to move its economy away from being command-led and export-led to one that is going to be consumer-led. I mean, this is a very important point for China, because previously it was seen as the factory of the world. So therefore, it produces goods, and then it gets paid for in US dollars. With all those US dollars, it doesn't know what to do with it, so therefore it has to go and buy US Treasuries. So it wishes it wasn't in that position. Unfortunately, it is, and it is actively trying to move away from that and trying to make its economy more consumer-led, which is great news for investors who are looking to supply those Chinese consumers.
So it's looking to diversify its funds, but if not the US, then where else can China park its huge amount of cash?
That's an interesting point, Katie, and China is already doing this, because if you have a look at some of the investments that China is making right now, a lot of people may not know this, but it owns 10% of Heathrow Airport. I mean, Heathrow Airport used to be the preserve of the UK investors, but now 10% of that has been sold to China. So that is one way in which China is diversifying. China is using some of its reserves in order to buy assets. Another one is a recent acquisition in America, whereby it bought a pork producer in America called Smithfield. So that is another example of how China is trying to diversify itself away from just simply holding US Treasuries. Then it's also got investments in Africa, it's got investments in South America. So China is definitely trying to diversify away from just putting all its eggs into one basket.
So given that China does have, though, a large bulk of its assets in the United States, would you say it's fair to say that they are at the mercy of US lawmakers at the moment then, David?
Well, Katie, it's not just China that's at the mercy of US lawmakers. It's everybody in the world that is at the mercy of US lawmakers right now. You just have a look at the stock markets around the world. Everybody is quite concerned that what would happen if America were to default on its debts, because so many people are holding on to US Treasuries. It's not just China. Pension funds all over the world hold it. Fund managers hold it all over the world, and even private individuals are holding it. So therefore, if, and it is a very big if, that if America were to default on its debts, then of course, everybody would be affected. So consequently, I think this is a learning curve for everyone, that you cannot just assume that an asset is 100% safe and there are certain risks associated with it. And what China is doing is they're trying to diversify away from holding just simply US Treasuries.
David Q, thank you so much. Speaking to us from Singapore today. Thank you for your time. Now, talking about US Treasuries, we spoke to Russian billionaire and head of the biggest aluminium producer in the world, Rusal. Yes, I'm talking about Oleg Deripaska. Our very own Paul Scott spoke to him and asked him for his take on the US debt situation.
Going back to the United States, it's a big issue it's sort of hanging over everyone, that possible default. The markets were relatively stable and have been during the shutdown of the United States. I suppose that's good news. Was that a surprise? I mean, were you expecting a more volatile response?
When market will realize that we can move close to default, it will be a completely different story.
You'd say you are expecting some more volatile movement?
We have no idea. I mean, if they even couldn't meet, that was the official reason why Obama didn't come here. That they didn't manage to meet for last 3 or 4 days with Republican congressional leaders.
Is it a worrying time for those who have investments in U.S. Treasuries?
I would never invest in U.S. Treasuries, to be honest. But maybe I have a different risk profile than our central bank. But I would find instrument which will could create more potential in terms of return and more opportunity in terms of growth.
So that's why the Russian oligarch cares about the US situation. We know why the Chinese care, we know why investors care. But why should we care then? Well, I've got the perfect person to tell me, the presenter of Why You Should Care, Tim Kirby, right here in the studio. Yeah. So, okay, I know 100,000 people, more than that, 800,000 people, they're not going to work. I appreciate that. But I can't see that the world has crumbled down around us. People are still going about their daily business. Why should we care?
Well, that's exactly it, because we see that 800,000 people are losing their jobs and everyone claims there's no money, but that doesn't make sense. Why you should care is because this is a mystery. For some reason, we had QE1, QE2, QE3, and we're printing money. We're living just like we did before. Like, what's changed? I mean, we read these articles about how, like, the Russians and the Chinese are going to stop using the dollar, and maybe Brazil and some other country are going to, but they still are.
But they haven't.
Yeah, just yesterday I read an article that the Chinese are scared of buying Treasury bonds in the United States. Scared, but they're still buying. So what exactly has changed? Nothing. And yet we have this illusion that there's no money in the system. And I just don't think that that's true.
So what's the answer to this? Who knows? I don't know. You don't know what's going on.
No, I think it's really something between the Democrats and the Republicans. There's some sort of
Really?
What are you doing here? We're supposed to be filming soon. You're ruining it. I'm trying to become an expert. And oh my God, you reek of alcohol. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Guys,
anyways,
Tim, this isn't professional. Seriously.
I'm really sorry about that.
I invited you on, but I didn't.
Yeah, I know. But anyways, he followed me here. Anyways, he and I, we discuss on our program Why You Should Care. We try to discuss these things about why you should care about things. Unfortunately, he's always never listening and getting in the way. But anyways, my apologies. This is actually a very serious issue, especially with 800,000 people getting laid off. And if there's no money in the system, interestingly enough, if there's no money in the system, then will these people get any unemployment checks? Let's hope so.
I certainly hope so for their sake.
Yeah.
I hope that your robot's getting paid as well.
Yeah, he gets paid in alcohol.
Hey, okay, Tim Kirby, thank you very much indeed for your help.
Thank you.
Time for corporate news now then, starting with Aeroflot. Russia's flagship carrier has revealed details of its low-cost airline. At a safe cost, there will be no reclining seats and no business class, but the fares are promised to be half the price offered by the competition. Initially, the flights will go from Moscow to St. Petersburg and 8 other Russian cities before expanding abroad. 110 people own 25% of all the private wealth in Russia. That's according to Credit Suisse in its latest global wealth report. And Russia's Alrosa has found a 235-carat mega diamond worth an estimated $2 million. Now I know exactly what I want for Christmas. So now let's check in at the business desk and speak to our very own Sean Thomas, who was poorly last week, but you're now back. Are you back with a vengeance?
I certainly am, and I have to thank you. That care package that you sent my way certainly did the trick. And there were some very sweet messages from people on YouTube giving me advice on how to get better. Took that as well, so I'm back. And I'm really doing well on this whole stock thing. I think I've gotten the hang of it. Check this out. You know how I've been doing financials?
Yes.
Well, Russia's biggest bank, Sberbank, they've been on a roll lately, and for the second week in a row, my portfolio has risen 3%. So I made $297. Drum roll, please. I am now at $9,890, only $110 shy of the original $10,000. So I think that it did quite well this week.
Excellent. And what are you going to do to get over that 10K threshold in order to get yourself into positive territory?
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'm going to do a little bit something different. I'm going to stay 75% in with financials and Sberbank because they seem to be on a roll. But I'm going to take a quarter out because I'm looking at Alrosa, which is Russia's largest diamond producer. And there was news that they're going to sell 16% of their stake, which is owned by the government currently. Their stocks are doing well. I don't want to change the financials because I am doing so well there. But I'm going to look, and the reason why I'm looking at Alrosa is because diamonds, right? Come on, they're sparkly, they're fun, everybody loves them, and they are worth a lot, so why not? So
and ladies love them.
Exactly. So that might be my in. If I have some stock in some diamonds, maybe that can be my pickup line.
The ladies will be queuing outside the door, Thomas, as usual. Thomas, I called you there, which was a mix between Sean and Thomas. So it could be your new name, perhaps. All right, then, Thomas, thank you so much indeed. We'll chat, and I'm so happy to have you back on the show, Fighting Fit. Now, for those of you who missed the Olympic torch ceremony here in Moscow, this is what happened. So as the torch bearer, the former champion Sharavav Kapityan, ran towards the Kremlin, a gust of wind blew out the torch. But luckily, a helpful security man was on standby and reignited the flame there. Brilliant. Now, the American manufacturer of the lighter Zippo decided to seize upon the opportunity and publish this image, but without the permission from the Olympics Association to display the iconic logo. So as a consequence, Zippo now face legal action after their internet slogan, Zippo Saves Olympics, went viral. Now, some commentators did point out, though, that the lighter had to be flicked several times before the torch was successfully lit. Now, that's all for Venture Capital for today and this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Really do appreciate it. And I hope you come back next week. Have a great one. Goodbye.